Hello and welcome to an earlier than normal Scotland Rugby News podcast with me, your host, Bruce Aitchison, and him, the editor, Mr. Gavin Harper. And we are broadcasting to all four corners of the world. We know we've got people tuning in from Hong Kong, so give us a comment and tell us where you are. Gavin, how are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. A busy old day, somewhat unexpectedly, but yeah, all good. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Plenty to get through. Blue sky and sunshine here in our nation's capital. So let's get going. A quick word from our sponsor before we kick off. The Scotland Rugby News podcast is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV. Tonight, with thousands of jobs across Scotland, you can find the one for you at S1 Jobs. So go on, get searching. Let's start with hot off the press. I think the headline gets everybody excited, but the devil is probably in the detail. Scotland Sevens appears to be back.
Scotland Sevens does appear to be back, and it is back. I think, that's definitely the headline is Scotland Sevens is back, but not on the World Series. So they'll still play as GB on the World Series, but I think this has been in the pipeline for a number of months. Scottish Rugby, when it was announced that the GB programme was being cut or being scrapped from full time, Scottish Rugby were pretty keen to get involved and take that on. And yeah, the announcement came this afternoon, literally a couple hours ago, that is what they're doing. So Scottish Rugby will basically run the men's and women's GB programme, and they're also reprising Scotland Sevens, which, look, I think has to be a good thing. There's 6 contracted players initially, full-time. There is a problem there.
Hang on, I'll get my boots.
My math isn't great, but I can see a problem with 6 contracts for a Sevens team. But look, it's going to be an opportunity for the guys at Edinburgh and Glasgow. And how often have we said here, these guys need somewhere to play? And there was an interesting line in it in the press release from Murrayfield that club players would be included. How many, how often, let's wait and see. But I think, look, as a whole, it has to be a good thing.
Yeah, agree.
There's another avenue for these players to now go and play.
Again, social media, I had a scout through some of the comments. Everything from, can I buy one of those shirts because it's not got the sponsor on it, please, to we're starting a Sevens programme, but we're cutting funding for the women's programme. But I think, and also people looking for a bit of clarification. I said to you before we hit Let's Go Live, my buddy John the Bruce, who tunes in most weeks, phoning me from Hong Kong because he's getting excited thinking he's going to be able to get a table full of Scotland Sevens players in Hong Kong, but it's not, it's GB. I can't pretend to understand what goes on in Murrayfield Towers. Like I don't know. I don't know what the planning is. I don't know what it looks like. I see Damien Hoyland's one of the 6 players. Obviously, didn't get his contract renewed at Edinburgh. Went away overseas. Came back. Has flirted with a few things. He's the experienced. Well, the most experienced, you would think. He's a bit of a figurehead, and he has other interests. I mean, I can't guess at how much these guys are getting paid. Club players, I'm guessing, is on availability and as and when work allows and holidays. I don't know when they can train. But the bit about giving academy players exposure to top-level professional sport, that's a good thing.
Yeah, it has to be. I think if you look at the previous iteration of Scotland Sevens, and we've talked about this loads before, but Magnus Bradbury, George Horn, like all these guys were in the academies, and there are loads and loads more who then went on to play for Edinburgh because they had played for the Sevens, stepped up, played for Edinburgh and Glasgow, then went on to win Scotland caps. And there's loads and loads of examples. And if we're saying that one of Liam McConnell or Freddie Douglas is not going to be playing for Edinburgh, then why don't they go and play some Sevens? You look at like Jerry Blythe Lafferty is a great example. Was at Melrose with Edinburgh was superb.
I loved it as well.
but he's realistically miles off getting a shot in the Edinburgh first team. So actually, somebody like him might be saying, well, hang on a minute, I can go and play for GB Sevens somewhere that at a level that's now going to give me a challenge. Not I'm going to play for Edinburgh in a Thursday night or Thursday afternoon friendly at Peffermill.
There'll be a few folk chapping at Franco and Sean's door. Head Dubai in December, Sean. Any chance, Franco? Dubai in December. That would be all right if that would be okay. It would be great for my development. I think. I don't know. We need to wait and see. I'm really chuffed, and Kieran Beattie, Selkirk man, getting to head it up. I don't fully understand what it means with with Scotland running the GB programme. Does that mean that those 6 will always be playing for GB, being the only full-time Sevens players in the UK, or is that not quite how it works? So there's probably a lot to be seen over, Dubai being the first one, and that was what the GB Sevens boys and Colleen Barreto was always very honest, that the GB team in Dubai was a very different one from the last tournament on the series, because they'd spent no time together by Dubai, but by the end of the season they were beginning to come together as a squad, and so Dubai is going to be tough.
Yeah, I think the point on that, I think probably is the answer to, are these 6 guys always going to play? I think certainly in the early tournaments, you would expect those 6 guys, if they're fit, to all be involved. I think they'll then be supplemented with, but I think it'll be predominantly other Scottish players and then English and Welsh. I think that's my reading of how the squad will be made up. I think the other thing is, you're right, like that Dubai tournament is always tough to get going because you haven't spent that much time together. Well, this squad have obviously, the 6 have obviously been together for a bit of time. You'd imagine there's a squad in place. They're away to Malaga later this month for a tournament. What a tough life, eh? Well, do you know, like, actually they might have more time together than we would have expected.
Yeah, it's, I mean, all in all, a good thing. It's obviously not really a target for many people now to be Sevens players in the UK in the way it was. There was a number of boys who, like Rodwell in England, was a phenomenal Sevens player and just gave Sevens everything. Now, I don't know what sort of money he was on, but there seemed to be some security around his contract, and then I don't know what he's doing now, because he had gone into coaching. But there were certain players who weren't really trying to get into 15s, it seemed, anymore, because Sevens was so demanding and they'd conditioned themselves to it, and that was a great thing. Now that doesn't seem to be there, and one of the players I read is Australian, been in New Zealand, qualifies through, I think, his father, and by playing for Scotland at Sevens will likely make him Scottish.
That I would need to check that, because
it's the level of competition, isn't it, to be counted? Because there's the kid whose name I forget playing for Australia who is Scottish qualified, but because he's played Sevens for Australia, he would have to sit out in the way Wes does of 5 years or whatever it is.
Yeah. I think you're right, and obviously they must have had their eye on this guy for a while to be bringing him over to play Sevens. It seems a bit unusual. I'm sure there will be people elsewhere say, why is this, not gone to a guy playing club rugby in Scotland, or gone to somebody who's in the academy or just left the academies maybe. But look, I think on the whole it has to be a good thing. I think for all that we sit here or we write about Scottish rugby haven't done this, or Scottish rugby have missed this opportunity, I think it's David Nucifora clearly sees the value in Sevens as a development tool, and I think the fact that they've acted, as I understand it, pretty quickly to kind of move in once the GB full-time programme was scrapped, I think they deserve some credit for.
Wow.
Some.
hang, hang on a minute. What have you done with my pal Gav? Just in the names, Finn Callahan, Matt Davidson, obviously he's got experience. Rowan Frostick.
Yep.
I'm pleased that Jacob Henry is going to be given a chance to continue as a pro, and maybe realise that potential that we all thought he had. And then Josh Radcliffe is the player who potentially is going to become Scottish qualified, depending on what happens through this process. But 6 players, opportunities for others. Hopefully it's the opportunity to go and have a crack at something.
I think I'd have to agree. It does seem quite strange that they've awarded 6 contracts.
Do you know the lap, man? I think it's because they're that confident that these 6 are so good, and Damien Hoyland is a magician that they don't need 7. They'll just play with 6.
Or Damien Hoyland's better than 2 of whoever opposition have got. Aye.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, let's see how it goes, but the Scotland tournaments will be difficult to support because they're obviously not front line, but also Sevens is getting harder and harder to support because you don't know where it is.
Yeah.
The eyes on it in this country, they're reaching new audiences, we're told, but they're old audiences like me who used to
loved it. Yeah,
Saturday mornings, Sunday mornings, tuning in and looking at Hong Kong with absolute jealousy, wishing I was there. Those days are kind of gone, and I don't even really know people that are playing sevens for some of the other nations in the way that I used to. You used to get off your seat for all sorts of guys playing for different countries, and you would probably be able to name 2 or 3 in every country, as well as most of the All Black sevens and so on. So yeah, it's a good thing. Let's hope it comes off, and it's an opportunity for Kieran Beattie as well to be professional coach and continue that, because I don't know what he was doing.
Yeah, and again, how many times have we talked in recent weeks about there are only so many opportunities for Scottish coaches, and there, until 2 or 3 hours ago, there were only 3 or 4, 3 really jobs in Scotland. Scotland coach, Edinburgh, Glasgow. Now we've got a sevens coach. So, I think.
Kieran Beattie's going to feel like a club coach turned up to training. There's only 6 boys there.
Yeah, there'll be a fair bit, as I'm sure you've experienced, there'll be a fair bit of rejigging sessions. Right, lads? We'll have 3 on 3.
Are we doing a drop kick competition again, Kieran? Class. Let's see how it goes. And even that, maybe being able to get people in, maybe they're students or academy players who are able to go and have a more active, engaging session in sevens, develop their skills. Yeah, let's see how it goes. So jumping into 15s, it was a mixed weekend, I think, is the polite way to put it. Where will we start? We start with Edinburgh.
Edinburgh, they played first, yeah.
You watch it, and I don't know how many metaphors or things we can say, but you're just watching it, and it just felt like it's slipping. But then I thought, actually, they're going to hold on to this, and then getting those last, whatever it was, 50 seconds still on the clock, penalty kick, catch and drive. Right, here we go, and then I mean, those players must be absolutely seething. Edinburgh posted Pierre speaking in the huddle after, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens this Friday against Benetton, because they're not necessarily a backlash, but you get what I mean. They're going to want a reaction, especially at home.
Yeah, and I think we know what will happen this weekend. Edinburgh at home are pretty good. Edinburgh at home, after a defeat, almost always win. I think, and I asked Sean this even before the game in Munster, the frustration is, here we are, it's the 15th of October, and we're talking about Edinburgh producing a reaction to an away defeat that should never have been. And I got, I said it in my match report and then online at the weekend, look, the 4 yellow cards, and Sean, I was pleased that Sean Everett said that he felt that they were all justified, because so did I. Even if we've all played at varying levels, and if a ref's against you, you have to be able to give him no opportunity to to give penalties or flashes cards, and like Edinburgh just didn't help themselves at all. The first one, Glenn Young, was
tough.
Yeah, like he gets caught in the road, and it's a daft law that like a scrum half shouldn't be able to throw the ball at somebody, and all of a sudden it's a penalty. But you do that 5 metres out, and probably you're going to get yellow carded. Darcy Ray's high tackle, he just needs to get lower. That's just
All right, Jim Telfer.
you know.
If I tell you you're too high, you're too high.
Exactly. But you know, like that's like that. I get that these things happen in split seconds, but like he had a good run at him. You know, it wasn't like the guy changed direction last minute, and so I think that was avoidable. Freddie Douglas one was very, very close to being the turnover of the century, but he was in at the side, according to Ben Whitehouse. And if you know you're up against it, and I admire that Freddie thought I can save the team here, but that maybe is a wee bit that naivety or inexperience that if you know you're up against it with a ref, don't fly into that ruck 5 metres out, because we've seen before, you know, it only took him one penalty to give a yellow card, and then the one from Magnus, the croc roll. I mean,
I never saw that in real time. I completely missed that in real time.
And I think this is one of those ones that it depends where your allegiances lie. The Scottish sort of fans, if you look at social media, thought yellow was harsh. The Munster fans thought it was a stonewall red card. So I think
I didn't. I've not seen that. I didn't go looking for that. I would have to say I think you're not getting away with that. Like I don't think you're getting off scot-free with that. No. And when they said, what do you call it? It's in the bunker review or whatever they call it. And I thought, oh no, because it's so subjective. No, I know the laws are there, but to me, it feels very subjective. But I thought yellow was probably about right.
Yeah, I did too. I think given the way that area is being refereed and the way that they're trying to kind of stamp things out, that kind of incident out, I thought, yeah, fair enough.
It's a bit like, sorry to butt in, but it's a bit like you saying about Freddie. Freddie's energy and enthusiasm. I mean, I've seen that kid since he was at school.
Yeah.
And I mean, the way he performed as a schoolboy rugby player was outrageous. The timing and the turnovers he created, he was almost immovable. He was phenomenal. And I really wondered if he could continue that in professional rugby, because it's obviously a massive jump up, and he has. When I watched him with the 20s, I was like, this kid is ridiculous.
Yeah,
and I love that, and I hope he never loses that in the way that, you know, Hamish Watson has always been Hamish Watson. With Magnus, I just wish he could get the bounce of the ball. He gives everything. It means so much to him. He's been made captain. He was captain a long time ago, and then it didn't quite work, and he's been away and he's come back. And I just wish Magnus would get a bounce of a ball, because I know I've not spoken to him, but I know that's going to hurt. And he'll be absolutely desperate to tear into this weekend. As a entirely selfish thing, Magnus needs this weekend to go well for Magnus. Because he'll be hurting after that. They cut him on the bench on his naughty chair, and you can just tell he's gutted with this.
Yeah, and that one was really crucial, because I think it was about 15 minutes to go, and
he came back on.
Oh, just as the game was finishing,
in an attempt to sort of, right, come on, I'm back. Let's go and win this.
And you know,
and I was willing it for Maggie, like, and they make the call, catch and drive, they keep it going, say, and then boom, and that, do you know, and like you said, depending on what side of the fence you fall on, I wish more referees would blow their whistle when a maul ends up like that.
Yeah,
I don't think, if you're going to take that gamble, then that's what it is. And as soon as it goes down, unless that ball is crystal clear there, that should be whistled in defensive team scrum, because the amount of attempting to get the ball on the ground after that, because when the ball's on the above the ground, it should be fair game. You can go in and you can take that ball, and it hardly ever gets refereed that way.
Yep, I agree. I think the frustration there for me wasn't. I think people were saying, "Oh, Edinburgh should have had a penalty for Munster trying to pull it down," but like Edinburgh got that maul moving. It gone maybe 10, 15 metres.
I actually thought they'd done it really well. I didn't realise they didn't have control. I thought they had it going. It's difficult. Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
I think when you've got once you get set and you're in that position, get the ball out. You know, as soon as if you can get the ball at the back of that, which they did at one stage, get it out. Play then.
I know, and I get what you mean, but here's the other bit to that gamble. Sorry for jumping in again, but teams are playing for that to become a penalty.
Yeah.
It's like the scrum. And I remember a referee saying to me many moons ago at a Prem 1 meeting at Murrayfield, and they said, why does a referee say use it in the scrum? And I obviously left long enough pause, and they went, because they didn't want to make a decision.
Yeah.
And it's that, but the issue you have with that, and I used to say this to a team I coached when it was a penalty, because I'm not a fan of the getting a penalty in the 22 and kicking miles away over there to touch for the conversion to be taken for over there. Let's play. And I don't know why more teams don't play, getting on to Bruce's high horse again. But if you decide to take a scrum, you're absolutely at the mercy of the referee deciding, well, it goes that way or that way. The scrum is so challenging unless you're the Springboks and you're absolutely. Although in the last game they lost one and they were raging.
Yeah.
So you're still at the. So the maul is very similar, right? We're going to try and milk a penalty here to kick again or to kick for goal. So, and that's why I think if referees penalised it more when it collapsed, you would get what you're suggesting. Right, if the ball's there, you're on the move forward, and that's when you're coaching or when you're playing, you're always told, get away while you're still going forward. You don't want it when they're stopped because the defensive line, So, yeah, I don't disagree with you, and I don't know because none of us are in the huddle, but I think Edinburgh are expecting a penalty there.
I think they are, but I think, is that another example? Like I was talking about Freddie, and I don't mean to single him out because he's a young player and that he was really, really unlucky. It's literally half a second and he makes a sensational turnover. Guys in those positions, like Ben Healy at 10 is surely saying to Charlie Shield at 9, give me the ball. I would rather we attempt to do something because they turned down a kick at goal about 10 minutes earlier, just before Magnus went off. And I just don't see what the plan was there. And it was so frustrating because 15 on 15, which it wasn't for very long, Edinburgh looked probably the better team. And when it went 14 or 13 against 15, they just lost that momentum. And I thought, actually, it would have been a huge statement if Edinburgh had come away with a win, another win from Cork, and they were so close to doing it. But again, we're back talking about our Edinburgh a bit fragile. Now we want a response from them, but we know we'll get a response because they're always like that at home. It's the first home game of the new season. So if Edinburgh win and win well at the weekend, I'm not convinced we necessarily learn that much. If Edinburgh lose, and we've talked about this before, all of a sudden I know that the Ulster game was postponed, but you're going into round 5 and you haven't won a game.
And there's how ridiculous things are because Munster are now sitting with 3 wins.
Yeah, exactly. and
their season hasn't been that flash. But you'd rather have it no flash and be 3 wins.
Exactly. And then you're going to Cardiff. You need to win, but you probably won't get all your internationals because I'd imagine Gregor would want most of them rested for The following weekend, because I'm going to use your favourite phrase, the USA game is outside the window. So it'll be Edinburgh-Glasgow.
Yeah, and on right. So and I don't disagree. And if you're Gregor, you're saying I want my team to be as good as it can be. But if you're Sean and Franco, some of the conversation must be, hang on, Gregor, like it's America here at home. Like I need Pierre or Ashy or Sione or whatever. Like, and I don't know, right? I've no idea how it works, but you know, Edinburgh now can use Boan every second as they want. But then if he's in the Springboks again, you know, we're back to the windows. But there's nothing stopping him playing, I don't think, the week before.
No, in
you know,
theory.
so Boan, you know, previously we were a bit, you know, not Boan was still there, but now Boan's a rugby championship winning loose head as Springbok, whereas this time last year he wasn't it. So you were worried if Pierre wasn't there. You were worried if certain boys weren't there. There's I don't know, and you know my feelings about windows. I just if I'm Sean, I think I'm saying to Gregor, look, play a Glasgow 15 if that's how it's going to go. Like,
but similarly, I'm not sure Franco would be that chuffed at losing, you know, a whole squad of boys.
I know. What's the phrase they use in teaching? Collegiality. If we're being collegiate about this, then by that stage, Edinburgh, I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know. Maybe these conversations are between CEOs and Gregor. Maybe it's not a coaching decision. I don't know. I don't know how these things work. I don't, as I said earlier in the pod, I don't understand what happens at Murrayfield Towers, but Edinburgh certainly could do with some momentum and 5-pointers. And this weekend, I'm really interested to see selection this weekend.
Yeah, I think you're right. Team's out tomorrow lunchtime, so I think it'll be really interesting to see what they do. Sean has talked about in these 5 games getting guys all a run, but I think you also need to build that continuity of this is my team and these are the guys I'm going to hang my hat on. I think injuries have obviously not helped. Like if Harry Patterson didn't have bad luck, he would have no luck at all. Unbelievable. Him and Ben Muncaster only lasted probably 10 minutes between them. That was just brutal. And Harry will definitely miss this weekend. Sounds like Ben will as well. But
got both good humans, and deserve so much more than they've got. Do you know? Just before we move on to Glasgow, Benetton will be looking at this, going, "Hang on, if we want to be considered," and when you've got a head coach who is not that long ago from this parish, knows a lot of them. You know, Kitty will be coming back, and it means a lot to him. Kitty and I have known each other since we were Bairns, and I'm really proud of him stepping out of a reasonably comfortable situation. Now, again, I don't know what happened, none of my business, and I've never asked. But to go to Italy, immerse himself, like, and now he's the head coach. Like, another example of a lot in skill and knowledge and experience out with the country, doing something good for others. But Kitty coming back, he knows a lot of these Edinburgh boys. He knows how it goes. Benetton will be well up for this weekend.
Totally. I think there is no doubt. And look, they've beaten Glasgow this season. Yes, it was in Italy, but we know Benetton are let's get rid of this idea that the Italian teams are gimmies. Like, Benetton are a serious outfit, and wouldn't surprise me at all if they make the playoffs. I said to you before, Edinburgh have a tendency to play really well against, like, there was the Sharks game at the end of last season. Leinster, the first game of last season, they pushed them pretty close. The teams that you sort of don't expect, Edinburgh, Glasgow, another one, minus the debacle at Hampden. Edinburgh have a tendency to play really well and raise their game for these big games. But I think Benetton will be in that scrap for sort of 5th to 8th in the playoffs. And those are the games that Edinburgh historically haven't done that well in. You look at, was it 2 seasons ago, they had to go to Benetton and win on the last day, and they never got off the bus. So it's a really tough one, and you're right. Like, Kitty coming back, Pete Wilkins has obviously joined Benetton as attack coach. Like, he'll be desperate to prove a point because it didn't go that well for him last season at Connacht. Like, I think it's a really, really tough game for Edinburgh, and
I think there's also, when you look at your fixture list, and I remember speaking to somebody reasonably high up in Scottish rugby saying, when Glasgow became champions, there will be teams who would kind of play a slightly weaker team at Scotstoun, thinking, right, well, we'd probably lose there anyway. So their point was Glasgow will get the benefit of being champions. Whereas at the moment, Edinburgh, unfortunately, Benetton are looking at that going, let's go all guns blazing. And they're not a kick in the backside away from the Autumn Nations or Series or League or whatever it's called. Some of those players are sticking their hand up going, right, this is a chance. We're playing against, 5 British Lions and however many Scotland internationals. Like, this is a chance for me to stake a claim. So and like you say, there's still a bit of local bias snobbery around, but they're Italian.
Yeah, 100%.
And yeah, it's going to be. I think that makes for hopefully a good atmosphere, good game. The light shows on before the kickoff. There's a lot being put into it. The supporters, I hope, are going to be out in force, having not had a game to support yet. So I think it'll be busy. I think the weather's to be decent, so it's a great chance to go and have a crack. Certainly better weather than it was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't be difficult, but
just about ended up in Norway that Saturday. So Glasgow, like, flip the coin, 49-0. If you knew nothing else about rugby and you knew that points were 5 for a try and 2 for a conversion, you're looking at that going, that's almost the perfect performance.
Yeah,
it wasn't, but you get what I mean. Like 49-0 makes it look like wow.
Yeah,
because and there's actually been a few donuts this season. There's been a few teams nilled.
Yeah, there has been. I think on Glasgow, you're right. It looks pretty much perfect. It wasn't, but to come away with that kind of result, and this is again, if you contrast the two teams, Glasgow don't get everything right, but. And I know the Dragons, like, I get it. The Dragons have got obviously massive problems and they're really up against it. And I think that, Kevin Miller's stats piece before the game basically suggested this was a one-horse race. And ultimately so it proved. But look, Glasgow don't need everything to go right. It was only 14-0 at half-time, and then they must have got a bit of a rocket from Franco and kicked into gear. I think once you build that wee bit of momentum, like, Glasgow are one of those teams that are really, really hard to stop. Scotstoun, as we said last week, it's not the greatest of places to go to. I think it probably becomes, get me on the bus and get me out of here. And when you're on the end of a sore one like that, and look, when Johnny Matthews and George Horn start doing their sort of thing, it's... Yeah, I mean, where do you go away? It's a tough one for the Dragons, but yeah, look, all of a sudden Glasgow's start to the season looks pretty good, despite all of Franco's concerns about losing players and squad sizes being shrunk and all that stuff over the summer. They seem to have coped not too bad.
George Horn, like, he's a competitive little beast. I don't know George well, but he's a competitive little beast. Getting taken off on 2 tries, I'm not sure he would have been overly impressed with that. But it cracks me up that DuPont keeps running the George Horn line and we give him the greatest player in the world, yet Georgie Horn runs it every other week, and the dive was horrendous, but we'll give him it. Like, he's just so busy. who knows fitness levels, but when he's in a game, he's like the kid out of The Incredibles. Like he just appears. He's just there, and his energy and enthusiasm and his love for it just seems to shine. And then you bring on Johnny Matthews, who sort of ambles on, gets into position to receive the kickoff, and then from a yard, there are very few. As Dragons didn't make it that difficult for him because they left him a massive gap. But Johnny dives in. 100 games and 49 tries, is that right? And George Horn's got 60 odd tries.
Yeah.
Like that's unreal.
Yeah, it's. I mean, Johnny's reckon. I actually talked about this last week. Remember, there was the game, ironically, also against the Dragons, where he scored about 600. I mean, that was just outrageous. But I think he, in the last maybe 12, 18 months, he's got a bit of a reputation as a poacher. Like he just hangs off the back of those balls, and everybody.
But he says that himself. He's like, my tries have accumulated about 10 yards. Like nobody has a pop at Johnny Matthews more than Johnny Matthews. But some of his tries, it's not true. And the All Blacks leave their hooker in the 15-metre channel, and Johnny stayed there, and the ball comes back to him. And if you're a winger or a fullback, you're not really looking forward to Johnny Matthews getting ahead of steam up against you.
No, and I think the other point is it was obviously his 100th game, and I can remember Johnny Matthews from the days at Boroughmuir and seeing he'd signed for Glasgow and thinking, okay, that'll do Glasgow a few weeks as cover. He's been good in the Premiership. So, yeah, fair enough. That makes sense. Did I ever think he'd score 40 tries and make 100 appearances for Glasgow? Probably not. So, fair play, Johnny Matthews, for taking that opportunity. There's one here, you might not like this, as a sort of forewarning to you. George Horn can't kick. His box kicks are shocking, says Adam. I actually agree with that.
Oh, you two have to be Scottish. Adam, you must be Scottish because you've got the lock behind you in your photo there, and I know that Harper's Scottish. This kills me. George Horn scores 60 odd tries, is about 3 stone wet, and the thing we're picking up here is that his box kicks. Good. I'm glad his box kicks are crap, because then we win a box kick and we'll play rugby, because nobody likes box kicks. Wingers hate them because they just chase them all day and never get them, or they have to stand underneath them and get belted. Good. I'm glad his box kicks are shocking. You tell George Horn that.
Does it mean, though, George Horn's ceiling? And I think Adam's got a point. I'm not saying it's by a long stretch is the reason that Glasgow lost the semi-final in Dublin, but when you watch the difference of Jameson Gibson Park and George...
Oh, come on. Hold the bus.
Hold on.
Hold the bus. The best scrum half in the world, apart from Super Breeks for Paris.
Super Breeks.
And we're giving George Horn a hard time because he's no Jameson Gibson Park. Come on.
What I mean is the level that George can then get to, i.e. with Scotland, does that take a dip because there's maybe a worry about his kicking game?
Who knows? We're not talking about Scotland. We're talking about Glasgow, and he's just carved it up and scored another bag full of tries, and he was immense, and his energy's incredible. Didn't give me this rubbish. We've got Ben White, and we've got Jamie Dobie and Ben Asher. Jamie Dobie can't even get a game, and his box kicks are flipping phenomenal.
But that's exactly my point. If you look at it holistically from a Scotland point of view, does Jamie Dobie, because I know the way
I remember when you were fun.
Yes, I know. I don't. When was that? Jamie Dobie, I think, becomes the second choice for Scotland, and George Horn is possibly still first choice for Glasgow because they suit what either coach wants. And I think the thing that Franco has done well is his 10s take a lot of or his 12s actually take a lot of the decision-making responsibility, which allows George Horn that freedom to go and run that ridiculous cheat line and score millions of tries. Like, I think George Horne is up there with one of Glasgow's most important players. From a George Horne point of view, I just don't know that it translates for him in international.
And Franco's right, because 10s should take all of it because they're better.
Adam's
10.
back, and Adam agrees with me.
You reckon Dobie's number? By the way, it's only 1B. Quite right, Ian. Ian, you're my man. You're my skin brother with your baldy head. Would any of they posed pictures in front of the loch, having had a romantic weekend at Cameron House, probably. And here goes with a local bias, because we've got Ward doing at Sale, who seems like he's tearing it up. So we're back to, we've only got Edinburgh and Glasgow, when we've got Ben White and Gus Ward also saying, hang on, what about us?
And Ali Price at Montpellier, who's played every game this season.
And well, see, there's one. It'll be interesting to see if he gets picked in the Scotland squad.
It will be.
It'll be really interesting to see if he gets picked. Dobie, I thought was going to have taken on, and who knows, because I don't know what happens, but I thought Dobie was going to have moved up quicker than he has.
Yeah.
And then at the weekend there, George comes off and Benny Afshar goes in at scrum half. Talking of box kicks, if there is somebody better at box kicking than Benny Afshar, I'd be very surprised, because that ball comes down with snow on it.
It also goes an absolute mile.
As Jim Hay would say, that's a high Gilbert on 15 with Brown stuff running down his leg. Like that. Benny Afshar can kick, and he's made himself a goal kicker, which is also outstanding. Benny, and those levers are pretty long. Scotland are good at scrum halves, right? We're good at that. We've done it well. So yes, you can start chucking, oh well, George can't box kick. George is one of those players that just having in your squad is a nice thing to have.
Totally agree.
And back to talking of selections, Gregor's autumn squad, I'm really interested to see.
Yes, me too. Out next week, so I think we can expect. But I think the days of the sort of the Tune Tombola, it was sort of called, of random picks that most of us haven't heard of, are probably gone. But I think I'm pretty interested to see who make up. For example, is Ali Price getting? Does Gus Ward get in? Is Jamie Dobie there as a 9 or as a bit of both?
Well, but look at back to the local bias. Hutchison appears to be doing some wonderful things with Northampton Saints. I was listening to that game on the radio on my way from Posh and Beck's wedding in Bo'ness on Saturday down the road, and that was what was on 5 Live. And Hutchison just seems to be all over it. And I watched some highlights the week before. He was getting turnovers that Freddie Douglas will be watching on repeat. The unreal, but he's not going to get a game, and neither's Cam Redpath.
Sorry to interrupt. I think he has to. I think over the last.
Gregor loves listening to you.
Hutchinson has proved he can play in these big games, and his form he's the player on form. So let's pick a team of players that are on form, and not combinations that maybe aren't as synchronized or aren't as on form. Like, give the guy a go. I was looking this morning. I've actually written something about this, but he's got 8 caps. He made his debut 6 years ago, and the most recent 2 of his caps last season were against Samoa in a summer tour jamboree that nobody really was. I mean, even I was struggling to stay awake for. And Portugal. Like, the guy's a Premiership winner. Get him in. Hugh Jones is fair enough. He wouldn't make the first choice team. Hugh Jones is injured. Give the guy a go. Like, let's see if he can play against the All Blacks.
So what's happening with Tom Jordan? What's the latest on him after him seeing red at the weekend?
So sent off at the weekend. Decision was out about 4 o'clock. He's got a 4-game ban, which takes into account the New Zealand game, but he'll be able to play against the All Blacks if he completes the very famous tackle school. So he's got to do the course and he'll be able to play against the All Blacks. He obviously, because of the window, wouldn't have been able to play the USA game. So really, from a Scotland point of view, not a lot changes. But it does mean that from the start of October till the middle of November, he won't have had any game time. So I
Can't
think
pick him on form by your standard.
Well, I mean, but I think he is another one because he plays 10, 12, 15. All of a sudden, if Gregor's penciling in a team to play the All Blacks, I think jersey number 23 might have Jordan on the back of it because he gives you that versatility. Dobie and him on the bench covers the whole back line.
Okay. Yeah. I kind of want to like play and get a red card. Not that I think I could get a red card even if I tried, just so I could go and be part of tackle school.
Oh, tell me about it.
Like what? Although in fact I would hate that being at tackle school. That's other than being at scrum school. That's probably my worst nightmare. But
I can't imagine mall school wouldn't be high on your list.
Oh
either.
no, I used to quite like that. I used to quite like getting myself in the middle of those things, because it was just like a big hug.
But a back's only flying into a mall when it's moving forward. I didn't imagine Aitchison putting his head in the spokes when it's 5 meters from your own line.
I used to quite like just hanging on. I used to like trying to get anyway. So we've got a back line: Blair Kinghorn, Darcy Graham, Duan, Kyle Stain, and folk are jumping up and down saying Kyle has to play in front of one of Darcy or Duan, which isn't for another day. Tom Jordan, Hutchison, Shuggy, Sione, Cam Redpath, Finn Russell, and then there's about 25 folk that can play 9.
Yes.
That doesn't fit into a squad of whatever Gregor's going to pick, 36. I'm really interested. I think we know names, and you know, I think Jim Hamilton's called it already. He thinks Scotland are going to beat the All Blacks, which is a sizable call.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no better opportunity. I think that this All Blacks team is not what it was. I think when they rolled into Edinburgh and wheeled out Carter and McCaw or Cullen and Lomu, or I've never ever thought, Scotland will win this. And you actually look back at the 2022 game, there was a good chance we kind of threw it away in the last quarter. The 2017 game and the emotion of Doddie bringing the ball out with the boys, it was almost there right at the end. I think this All Blacks team doesn't look that great by All Black standards. I think it would be interesting. It would be a massive statement. It would basically alleviate all the pressure that will be on Gregor. But Scotland have to beat Argentina as well. So all of
and
a sudden,
that you could just imagine that being a Scottish autumn.
Yeah,
we beat the All Blacks for what will be the only time in my lifetime, and then we lose to Argentina.
Yeah, and within 7 days, that pressure on Gregor and the thing about the Red Bull and the part-time coach and all that stuff will be thrown back at him. And
part-time coach, part-time bus.
We're now also looking at Scotland have reached a level where I think realistically we're saying, do we expect to win 4 out of 4? Maybe not, but that's the one is 4 out of 4. 3 out of 4 probably is the expectation and would be considered a success. Any less than that's a total disaster.
It can't be less than 2.
I mean, if it's less than 2, I hope that's because there's been some sort of COVID cancellation or somebody's bus has broken down. Like it can't. But I don't think it can be less than 3. Which means then you're knocking, you're beating one of the championship teams.
I tell you what, we've crammed a lot in the night.
Yeah, we have. I quite enjoyed that.
Your heart rate actually went up a couple of times there. I quite liked that. It's quite good.
Yeah, I think it
Wind
might
you
have
up a wee
done.
bit.
Yeah, I know.
Right, okay, like it. And George Horn's away up the park at Cooper to practice his box kicks.
Good. Let's see how
he's not been back on, as he is. He moaning still.
No, but we do have one final one.
I'll tell you what, Gary, I am there with bells on, and wait till you hear what I'm getting to do on that day, Gary. I'm a very excited boy, but I better not say anything yet. But yes, I'll be there, and I'll see you there, Gary. Yes. Straight down the road after the All Blacks game. And
you'll be celebrating a famous Scotland win over the All Blacks as you drive down the road.
I know. Imagine that Scotland beat the All Blacks and I missed the street party.
And the open top bus and the civic reception.
Doing the street at Gala, doing Bank Street in Gala with Gregor at the front.
Gregor will be driving the bus. Is that not another part-time adventure?
Oh, hey, you couldn't let that go. You couldn't let that go. Harsh. Right, go away. We're not here next week, folks. We're taking a break because Gav needs a holiday. And a final word from our sponsor, Scotland Rugby News Podcast, is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV right now. There are thousands of jobs all across Scotland, and you can find the one for you at S1 Jobs. So go on, start your search today. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your rugby wherever you're getting it. I'll see you at the Hive. If you're there, come and say hello. Don't forget to turn your light on, and we'll catch up with you very, very soon. But for now, look after yourself. Cheers.